So you were talking about identifying the business outcomes you're looking for, and made me wonder, how do you go from like a very high level outcome, like, we want to improve the speed of quoting to binding insurance, to like an early indicator of, okay, we've had this thing installed for 3 months. Is it doing what we think it's doing? Like, how do you, what are the sort of stages along the way of getting to that, measuring that high level outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like advice I always like give people is one, like when you're evaluating like technology, you have to have a high level business case. So to your point, Wells, like you're really at that 30,000 foot and it's like, I think that it can drive this, right? Like you're making a hypothesis and you're going with those assumptions, right? Because you can show those assumptions based on like actual data that's flowing through your ecosystem.
Yep.
But what's really important is now that you've implemented it, how do you think about like capturing that value, right? So like you made a hypothesis early on, which is what influenced you to make that technology purchasing decision. Now, how do you capture that value? I think one thing that you usually see that's missed is like baselining those metrics before you even implement. So you actually have to baseline like what are we going to measure and how are we going to measure it, and you have to do that before you start implementing the technology or anything that's like net new, even if it's just an org change, right? Because then how will you know like what you actually did? So I think that's always an important part. And then you implement, you now have your baseline metrics, you know how you're going to measure yourself, so then you can always go back to say, did we see the change that we thought we would, yes or no, right? And sometimes your hypothesis could be a little too exciting, right? And you might say, but we still were able to capture a significant amount of value and we still have a healthy business case and we'll continue to capture value. Now, once that's in place and like you're in production and you're really running smooth, right? Then the question starts to become, well, what are we not getting to that we could be getting to, right? Because what you do on day one is like what you were doing on day zero, but you've just made it better. So now it's, are we able to get to more than we were able to previously? And if the answer is yes, then you start really like working those things and start thinking about what else could I do from an operational standpoint, but also what else could I do from like a value to the organization, right? Could I generate revenue? Could I create like products embedded in my services? If so, what does that look like and how do I unlock that?